What is up, beautiful people? Welcome to the second episode of the Made to Excel Fitness podcast. I'm your host, Mark Torres, and this is the COVID-19 special. Hello. Welcome to the Made to Excel Fitness podcast, the fitness podcast for you, by you. I'm your host, Mark Torres. I know I said it once, I'll say it again. I'll probably always say that, but this episode, we're living in unprecedented times. The world is at a standstill. Everybody's not working, myself included. The gyms have closed, so I'm not working for the foreseeable future. We don't know exactly when things will get back to normal, but we are living in unprecedented times, like I said. So I figured now is as good a time as ever. This is going to be as relevant as possible to talk about this now. I want to say my piece about it and keep it moving. So this is the coronavirus episode. My intention for this podcast was to release every Monday. Obviously, I just released episode 1 this past Monday, 2 days ago. It's Wednesday right now. By the time I upload this and edit it, I don't know when it'll be, but it'll probably be before Monday. I want to get it out there, kind of say my piece about it and keep it moving. And pretty much, I'm going to keep this try to keep this relatively brief. Not that anybody gives a shit what I think about the coronavirus, but I think that my official stance on the coronavirus is, first and foremost, I'm not here to preach to anybody, right? I'm not in a position to tell you guys what to do. I think what has to be said has been said already. Social distancing, super important. Try not to go out. Try not to be, in the midst of a bunch of people. But relatively straightforward. It's going to be really hard to tell people how to live their lives. People have bills to pay, so they're going to go to work until they're absolutely mandated not to. People have plans. They're going to keep going out. Whatever the case may be, it's unfortunate, but pretty much I think the main thing to think about is to not be a dickhead. If you're going to be out, maybe don't cough on your hands and grab a bag of chips. Reach into a bag of chips and spread your germs everywhere else. Be mindful of what you're doing. Be mindful of your germs and how they affect other people. Because just because you choose to live your life one way doesn't necessarily mean that you should be imposing that on other people. So just be mindful. Just have other people's well-being in mind, of course, if you're going to choose to be, going against the grain when it comes to social distancing. But other than that, I'm not here to preach to anybody. But really why I wanted to make this podcast episode is because I wrote an article on my website, mtefit.com. It's called "The World is Coming to an End. Here's How to Stay Fit at Home." And it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. I don't actually think the world is going to come to an end, knock on wood. But we are living in unprecedented times, like I said, and most people are probably at home. Most people are without work. Most people are, their lives are at a standstill. So staying fit at home is going to be super important. And if you choose to take the next few weeks to just be a complete couch potato, by all means, do what you want to do. Nobody's telling you how to live your life. If that's what you want to do, go for it. A couple weeks off, it isn't going to kill anybody. But we don't know how long this thing's going to last. For sure at the end of March, it looks like everything's going to be closed at least till April. And then we don't know how far past that it's going to go. So, if you want to take a few weeks off, by all means. But if it's going to last longer than that, then maybe you should try to think about working out at home. So I want to summarize that article a little bit. If you want to go super in depth, you can read that article. It's like an 11-minute read, so it's not too long, but it is rather in depth. It took me some time to write. I put some time and effort into it, so definitely go check it out. I'll touch base a little bit on each section in this podcast. But first and foremost, the first section of the article is training ideology. And like I said just now, is we don't know how long this thing is going to last. If it just happens to be a few weeks, then maybe you don't have to think about the training ideology part of it. You can kind of throw that, you can kind of skip that part. But if you are thinking that this is going to last longer, if we're going to be here for a few weeks, months, whatever the case may be, maybe you should have a better idea on what is happening when you're training and how to manipulate that for the best results. So pretty much the main point in that training ideology part is progressive overload is super important, and progressive overload is mainly just making sure that there's a new stress on your body so that your body can adapt and recover and improve. So if you're a person who is laying on the couch for 12 hours a day, you're not just going to magically one day wake up and say, let's go do a Tough Mudder and do it. You're probably going to hurt yourself, or it's going to be very, very difficult for you. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some effort. You might have to start walking half a mile every day, and eventually that half a mile is going to become super easy. So one of two options for you is to continue doing that half a mile, but your body's already used to that. It's not a stress to your body anymore. So that is where progressive overload stops, and you've got to think about changing what that stress is so you can continue to make improvements. So if you walk for half a mile for an extended period of time and you start to get really used to that and it starts to become really easy, now you've got to think about either trying to do that half a mile in a quicker time or extending the distance that you're walking or running, whatever the case may be, right? So you've got to have an additional stress than what your body's used to. That's pretty much what progressive overload is. So if you're a weightlifter, then that means either doing more weight or manipulating the amount of reps that you do, or manipulating the amount of sets that you do, or manipulating shorter rest times, right? That's all progressive overload, just making sure that your body's under new stress at any point whenever you feel like your training is becoming stagnant. And that's super important, not only working out at home, but being in a gym. But obviously in a gym it's a little easier because you've got maybe machines that have weight pins and you can easily move the weight pin up and down. But in a home setting where we maybe have less equipment, most of us probably, unless you're The Rock and you're stuck in your iron paradise, what I would give to be The Rock right now. He's pretty much quarantined in his gym, and his gym is nicer than whatever your gym is for the most part, probably. Imagine your gym, imagine it being nicer. That's The Rock's home gym. I'm assuming your home gym doesn't look like that, so you have a shortage of equipment. How is it that you're going to progressive overload? Manipulating reps, manipulating sets, manipulating rest times. That's going to be super important. And maybe doing new exercises. That's also progressive overload. But don't get stuck doing the same thing and over and over again, because it's no longer stressful to your body. Your body's going to stop making progress. And if we do this if we're in a lockdown for more than a couple weeks, you're going to stop making progress. You might flatline, which is okay. It's better than going backwards. But if you want to continue to make progress while we're at home, by all means, progressive overload, super important. I talk about it in the article, so definitely go check it out. If not, fire up the old Google machine and it'll tell you what progressive overload is. The second part of the article is just nutrition. I'm not going to go too deep into the weeds. I don't go too deep into the weeds when it comes to nutrition in the article as well, because that is an entire article, an entire podcast in and of itself. But pretty much, calories are king. I know that there's a lot of panic buying going on right now, so grocery stores are bare. So if you're in a position where you only have a certain amount of options to eat, nutrition, it is not important in that environment, in that situation. You just got to eat what you can eat, just to get by until the supermarkets are back to being stocked up. But if you have an abundance of food, right, calories are the most important. Find your caloric maintenance, whatever number of calories you can eat that your body weight's going to stay the same, and then you can manipulate your calories from there. You can eat more if you want to gain weight. You can eat less than that number if you want to lose weight. Simple as that. Obviously, I say simple as that. It is simple in concept, difficult in execution. Finding that number is going to be 85% of your battle, and then manipulating that number after the fact becomes a little more easy. As long as you can find a way to do it consistently, that's the most important part. Training ideology, progressive overload, nutrition, calories are king, and last but not least, equipment. The most important probably piece of equipment that you can have in a home gym is probably dumbbells. You can do body weight stuff, but depending on your training style, depending on your training level, if you're a beginner, body weight stuff is probably perfect for you, right? But eventually you're going to get to a point where the body weight stuff becomes too easy. Progressive overload, you're going to have to eventually add some weight to make those exercises harder for you in the long run, so you can continue to make progress. If you're a person who is very much so into weightlifting, you haven't done any body weight stuff, body weight might actually be a progressive overload for you. It's a different form of training, right? So I did the body weight workout yesterday, and I was like dying after it. So, because I'm not used to that, right? So it was a different form of training for me. So it was maybe not progressive overload, but it was a different type of stress on my body. And if I did that for long enough, I would adapt to that eventually. So making sure I'm doing something different. So dumbbells, super important, so you can add weight to any given exercise that you've been doing. Second most important, I would say, is monster bands. So I did today's video, which will hopefully come out today. Well, whenever you're listening to this or watching this, the second at-home workout is going to be a monster bands upper body workout. Monster bands is probably the second most important thing to have in a gym, in a home gym. They're super inexpensive. I think I got a 4-pack for $30. They're varying resistances. Whenever you have not enough dumbbell weight, you can always add a band and make the resistance even more. You can do just straight up monster band workouts. Almost the same thing that you can do with dumbbells. So they're really a versatile tool to have in your at-home repertoire, and it's a very low investment to make. 4-pack for $30. I've had them for, probably coming up on 2 years now, and they're still in great condition, and easy to take on vacation. They don't take a bunch of space. Whereas dumbbells, if you need heavy dumbbells, it's going to take up extra space unless you get adjustable ones. Whereas, resistance bands, the monster bands, the pull-up assist bands, you can kind of stuff them in a suitcase and go with them anywhere. Obviously, nobody's traveling right now, but in the future when things return to normal and you're going on vacation, stuff them in your suitcase. You're good to go. You've got a home gym in your bag without taking up too much space. So those are the two most important things: dumbbells and monster bands. Then you get into the kettlebells. That's pretty much just preference. A lot of the same exercises you can do with the kettlebell, you can do with the dumbbell, and vice versa. If you have more familiarity with kettlebells, you can definitely invest in kettlebells versus dumbbells, but for the most part, dumbbells, everybody has some sort of familiarity with them. So kettlebells just preference. Bench, same thing, preference. You can do most of the workouts from the floor, but if you wanted to have an incline for any reason, you need a bench. Or if you have trouble getting up and down from the floor, the bench is also there for you as well. So just little luxuries that you can have at your home gym. And last but not least, if you wanted a barbell, but the barbell comes with weight plates, and the weight plates comes with a squat rack, and now you're looking at a hefty investment. Unless you're well off, or unless this is something that you really want to dedicate a lot of your income to, once you get into the barbell, weight plate, squat rack territory, you're going all in on a gym. So I talk about all that in the article. That is, depending on how much of an investment you want to make in a home gym. If this is just like you're riding out the storm until the gyms open up again, just having the bare necessities is usually perfectly fine. Dumbbells and some monster bands. And make sure you have dumbbells that are heavy enough for you. If you're a person who is a relatively strong person and you've got 5-pound dumbbells, you're not doing yourself a great service with that. But anyways, I'm gonna wrap this up. I don't want this to be too long. I don't want this to be, this is one of a million probably COVID-19 coronavirus podcasts that are gonna be out there. And I don't think it's gonna go away anytime soon. Knock on wood that it does, but this will be dominating the news cycles for at least the next few weeks, if not the next few months. So that's pretty much it. We're gonna wrap up this episode. If you're interested in the at-home workouts, they're gonna be on my YouTube page. They'll be on Facebook, Instagram. I'll link them all. You can go to the website. They'll be there, at-home workouts. I'll link them. Articles there, podcast. Give it a listen while you're here right now. Subscribe to the show. If you have any questions, direct them to me. Let me know what your questions are, and I'll do my best. Not do my best. I've got plenty of time. What am I talking about? I will answer your questions as they come in, and eventually they will be part of the podcast. So that about wraps up episode 2. Take it easy, guys. Stay safe. Social distance. Don't be a dickhead. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.